We have a bunch of weak men. We have two problems in this country with the male issue. Number one is we have a history of war. And then we have, oh heck, I don't care what they're gonna do to me. So what makes a man? Easy answer is a man makes another man. We don't come out of the womb knowing how to be a good man. It's taught to us. We're raised in it. And the other side of that coin is this abomination we call the manosphere.
Most people spend their lives searching for purpose, but Dewayne Noel built his. As a ranch hand for over 25 years, hard work wasn't a choice, it was survival. Dewayne is an unlikely YouTube phenomenon, known not only for horsemanship, but for his quiet, commanding wisdom.
Why is it so hard for us humans to be self-aware?
I think it's fed into us, and I think it's a cultural thing.
So we have a uniquely American problem?
I would say we have a Western civilization problem. I tell you what, a 5-year-old boy's got no business being in school.
Oh, break that down. So Dewayne, I've seen you talk about a major turning point in your life, which was a heart attack. And I can only imagine what a health event like that can do to make you get perspective on life in general.
Right.
Specifically, looking back on it, was that a huge catalyst in the change that we now all see on YouTube and the influence we see, or was it maybe the beginning point, but it didn't change that quickly? What was that really like for you?
Well, the heart attack was minor.
Yeah.
But it was just part of a whole series of life things that were not ideal.
Right.
And it was just another part of things that were blowing the horn that's saying, hey, you got to change who you are. You got to change what you're doing. Yeah. You know, I went in the doctor. They said it was a heart incident. They called it. The wake-up call wasn't so much the heart incident. It was how I reacted to it. You know, it's like, I think I'm having a heart attack. Good. I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Wow.
You know, and if this can end. I'm going to go to sleep. I won't wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And, you know, instant change of Dewayne. And I woke up the next morning and...
Were you disappointed?
I was.
Really?
I was. Yeah. No, I was in a real bad place.
Describe what was the bad place. What was the convergence? I
had been in a real angry, combative place for a lot of years.
A lot of anger.
Came from a family that was very tight-wound, a bit combative. Good people. I come from a really good family. I don't want that to be misunderstood.
Sure.
And I grew up in a church that was very combative. There were a lot of things in life that had accumulated to the point where it's like, I didn't like me. My wife didn't like me. My kids didn't like me. You know, it's like, and then you just come to a place one day where you look in the mirror and you say, I'm 50 years old. And if I had 50 more years, I can't stand the thought of living the next 50 years in the condition I have been in the last 50 years. So I need to make some changes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So take us through that. You wake up in the hospital the next day.
No, I woke up in my bed.
Oh, okay, so it was so the incident happened at home. Gotcha, okay.
No, I was in bed, and I'm like, I'm not even going to wake my wife up.
I see.
And
you were going to grit it out. You thought this was it.
Yeah, and I went to sleep.
Okay.
And
you wake up.
I woke up next morning, and I'm like, life is killing. I'm letting life kill me.
Yeah.
If I can put it like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, my diet's killing me. My attitude is killing me. I'm letting everything around me just drive me crazy, and I can't live like this anymore. And change is not.
That's right.
Change is take one thing, fix it. Take another thing, fix it. It's a journey. Change is a journey.
That's right.
When you find yourself in a really bad place in life, normally you didn't get there overnight, and you're not going to get out overnight.
Yeah.
You know, what I had was a culmination of 50 years of life, and so it wasn't going to change in 6 months. I got myself into that situation by how I looked at things and how I handled things and how I so it was on me. I'm not blaming the rest of the world. And I think that's the first place you got to get.
Yes,
you got to say, what are my decisions that has got me in this mess. And so what decision am I going to make to start getting me out of this mess? It doesn't do any good to blame everybody around you for whatever situation you're in.
Sounds to me like this is an issue with a lot of people, that there's just a lack of self-awareness. And for whatever reason, you wake up that day in your bed, you're alive, a little disappointed.
Yeah.
But then you decide, all right, I got to look at my role in this.
Right.
Is it, why is it so hard for us humans to be self-aware?
There's a lot of different reasons. If you grew up in church, that's self-centered. You know, life should be about serving others, you know, and you shouldn't be selfish and thinking about yourself and everything. Guys are taught that you sacrifice for your wife and for your children. You sacrifice for your job. It doesn't matter if you got the flu. It doesn't matter if it's raining. You get up and go to work.
That's right.
You don't matter. You know, it just doesn't. And so I think it's fed into us from the start. And I think it's a cultural thing. I mean, I've been in 9 different countries. I've been in overseas a lot. And this isn't worldwide. This is not worldwide.
So we have a uniquely American problem where we're just afraid to be real.
I would say we have a Western civilization problem. I don't think it's uniquely American. I mean, I've met a lot of Europeans that have the same issues.
Sure. Yeah. It's very human to just
It's very human.
put a strong front out and not acknowledge it. So what was the situation professionally for you at that time? So I want to stay where we were in the story. You're so angry, unhappy with life. You wake up and you decide, all right, I'm gonna slowly make some changes. Where were you professionally? Were you wrangling? Were you a cowboy at the time? Was that when you were in manufacturing?
I was training horses.
You were, okay.
But I was also pastoring a little church.
Really, a pastor?
Yeah.
A pastor who wants to die.
A pastor who just don't want to deal with people anymore.
So where does God in this situation that next morning?
He wasn't in the situation.
Right.
And that's a big part of the reason why I was in the situation. I got to the point, I went before it was a little church, and I went before the church and I said, I can't do this anymore. You know, I'm sorry. I love you guys, but this is killing me. I personally am not in a place that I've got to stop. I've got to pull back. I've got to make a bunch of changes, and it's not fair to you. And so I resigned and we left.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just stayed in the horse business?
I went straight down to Colorado and got a job cowboying on a ranch in Colorado.
Interesting.
And then I left there and went to Texas and got a job with a riding outfit in Texas.
Okay.
And then we started the school.
How much did that play, those jobs on the ranch, how much did that play in your healing? Or more specifically, how did it help you make the changes that you said you needed to make?
Working with horses is always therapeutic for me. But I mean, don't ranching is high stress at times, cowboying.
Sure.
But there's also hours and days where you're literally by yourself. And I mean, I spent weeks on a tractor by myself just raking hay, you know. And you know, there's all that kind of work. So there's massive amounts of time where it's just you know. And it's a good time to figure out if you like you and if you don't like you, and if you don't like you, what do you not like about you?
I love that.
Yeah.
What are some of the hard questions you asked yourself on that tractor or in other roles where you're out there by yourself?
Can I change? Is this always going to be me? I mean, I was always that far away. I mean, as calm as I could be this calm right now, and I'd be that far away from just rage, you know, just rage, just at people in the world, and it had just accumulated.
Sure.
Even now, that's been 4 years, and my wife will be out, and I'll be working a horse, and I'll get a horse that'll really stand on its head and show its butt, you know, but I'll take a step back, and then I'll go in, and my wife, even today, she's like, I can't believe it. She said 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that's not how you would have handled that. But it's a journey.
Yeah.
And then there's things, things you have to do. So I had to sit down, and so I did an inventory of what makes me mad.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Give me an example. Give me
People.
a couple. Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
What keeps you ginned up?
Yeah.
People. So I cut 99% of the people that was in my life. I cut them out. It's like, you're not good for me. You got to go. I stopped watching the news. The news, they just gin you up. I stopped.
Isn't that the truth?
I didn't watch the news. Diet has a lot to do with it. Changed my diet drastically.
What did you take out?
Everything but meat.
So carnivore.
Carnivore diet. Now, I fall off every once in a while. I'm from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Right. So you put a plate of biscuits and gravy in front of me, and it's like putting a bottle of bourbon in front of an alcoholic. And sometimes I fall plumb off the wagon.
And if you're going to fall into some biscuits.
Fall into some biscuits.
That's what I would say. That's good life advice. If you got nothing else out of this.
But I keep going back to the carnivore.
Okay, you said something that we have to revisit, and I think this is incredible advice for anybody. You cut a lot of people out of your life. And I think that there's some people that are listening and watching this right now, and they're afraid to do that because some of those people might be family members. Some of them might be close friends, or should we say friends with a lot of history. What was your criteria when you were thinking about them? I know I'm going to cut these people out, but who are the people I want to keep? What was your personal criteria to go, these people are good for me? Describe those folks.
It wasn't a criteria, these people are good for me.
Okay.
It's, are these people bad for me?
Okay.
Do you make me mad?
Right.
Do you infuriate me? Are you constantly cutting and insulting? Are you not encouraging? Are you not,
so good.
And so basically it's poison. Do I want to drink the poison? You're poison. I don't want to drink your poison anymore. And so we set the poison aside.
Wow.
So
it's only 4 years ago, what we're talking about. And so,
dude, if you had known me, let's say 5 years ago, it's inconceivable.
Really?
The difference.
Do you consider yourself angry now?
No, I don't get angry very rarely. I do some, but a lot more.
So here's what's fascinating to me as I'm listening to this. You haven't mentioned therapy.
Didn't go to therapy.
Didn't go to therapy. And you said it was gradual. I understand that. What would you say were some of the biggest tools or changes that you made to be sitting here such a different guy, to where your wife is like, wow, you would have never handled that? How did you do that?
Well, if you take what's causing you to be that way and get rid of it,
It helps.
I mean, you're gonna, you can eventually default back down. And a lot of people would take this wrong, okay? But I had to get to the point where I liked me.
Right.
If we were in an environment where you and I hung out a lot, and you started irritating me, okay? It's like, I don't like this about him. I don't like that about him. And it started, well, let's take that around. I'm with me all the time.
Right.
And I'm doing things that I don't like.
Right.
So if I can recognize things in you that I don't like, why can I not recognize things in me that I don't like? And I'm like, I don't like me. I don't like that I'm doing that. I can't make you stop doing what you're doing that irritates me, but I can make me stop doing what I'm doing that irritates me.
Yes.
That makes me, in my eyes, unlikable. And so you've got to get to that point. You had a conversation with a fella, and you guys were talking about how many lonely people there are.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, and I talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I get comments and emails and stuff. In my opinion, the biggest problem with people who are lonely is they don't like themselves.
That's exactly right.
It's not that they don't have someone that has these qualities and these criteria to set with them. It's like the person that they're always with don't have those qualities and don't have those criteria, and they don't like themselves. I spend most of my life by myself.
Right.
I sit on my porch alone with a cigar, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly at ease.
Yeah.
I like me. My wife will come out. She smokes cigars. She'll have a cigar with me. I like her. And
that's simple.
Life is good.
I like that.
Life is good.
I like that. It's fun. I've said this before. The person we listen to the most is us. If you think about the amount of thoughts we have in a given hour, much less 24 hours, I think you're making a very powerful point that most people who are lonely, it's not because of the proximity to people they're around. It's just they're just not happy. I think it's shame. How much does that word resonate with you in your journey? Was it a lot of shame?
Oh, there was a lot of shame. And I still look back with a lot of shame and regret. But I'm detached from it. Okay. Again, all right. You and I are in the same circle, and you become an irritant.
Sure.
Okay. And you become someone. Your behavior becomes someone that really troubles me.
Right.
All right. And you do something that really offends me. If you come to me and say, Dewayne, man, I shouldn't have done that. That was poor behavior. That was not good. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Well, if I have any grace at all, of course I'm going to forgive you.
Sure.
But we can't do that with ourselves.
Right.
Hey, dirtbag, that was shameful behavior.
Yes.
I know. I recognize it was shameful behavior. I accept that I am responsible for that shameful behavior. And I am leaving that behind and I'm quitting that. But we can't turn around and say, you know what, man, you're only a human. I forgive you. Why can't we do that with ourselves?
That's a great question.
You know, we're eat up with unforgiveness, but it's not unforgiveness that other people won't give us. We're eat up with unforgiveness towards ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, it may be that we don't deserve forgiveness because we haven't owned it and forsaken it. But once we've owned it and forsaken it, I did that yesterday because that's who I was yesterday. But I didn't do that today because that's not who I am today.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm not going to destroy myself over the man that I used to be, but that I'm not today.
So I'm going to move along in the journey here. You, at some point, get on YouTube.
That was the craziest thing.
That has to be crazy. Because this dynamic, I mean, it has blown up for you, and you're speaking to people and their lives and young men, but you started out doing something different, right?
Well, I was training horses.
Yeah.
But I used to wrangle
and
pack and cowboy.
Right.
And I was missing it, you know, and so I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try this YouTube thing, and I'm gonna just put some videos out there for kids who are wanting to get into wrangling.
Yeah.
Just on saddles, some horse tips and stuff like that. And I did. And the dumb thing blew up.
Right.
I mean, it blew up. Yeah. And my buddy, after a while, I don't remember how many subscribers I had. He's like, you're monetizing that, right? I'm like, what? I did. He said, you need to monetize it. I said, I can make money off this?
Right.
Yeah. And so I didn't start out. This was not a planned deal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had an LG cell phone. And I would set it up on the porch railing and sit down and just talk about whatever's on my mind, you know. Yeah. And sometimes my wife would come out. She'd sit there and hold it. Yeah. Or my daughter. Yeah. So some of them older videos are kind of quivery because it was cold and they're sitting there shivering. But that's how we started. Right. And everybody's like, you got to get a microphone. You got to get this. I'm like, why? I'm just putting this will never do anything. Right. Well, who cares? Yeah. You know. But it just.
That had to be part of the reason, your authenticity. I think people are craving authenticity, and you are authentic.
Well, they told me when I started, like, okay, you're starting to do pretty good, so you need to start doing, music and in this and your edits and stuff. And I'm like, if that's what I got to do to be successful, I don't want to be successful. People think it's noble. Dwayne's going to be true to himself. No, Dwayne was lazy. I didn't start this for a job. Yeah. I hate technology. Right. I'm not going through all that.
Exactly.
This is me. All right. Watch it or don't. I don't care. I don't know you. That's right. You're on the other side. It doesn't bother me either way. Yeah.
I want to switch to it because from what research I've done, you have a massive audience of young men, and it kind of turned into some life advice. And I did a little research that I want you to weigh in on because this is serious stuff, not new to you. Right. I don't believe. But over 6 million men in the U.S. experience depression each year. Men die by suicide nearly 4 times as often as women, with suicide being the 7th leading cause of death for males. I'll add to that some data that I've spent a lot of time talking about on the news, on my channel and with Mike Rowe about the 7 million able-bodied men in America right now that are not working. They are selectively going, I don't have a future. I'm just going to stay at home. Somebody's supporting them. 7 million men. So if you take all that, Dewayne, and shove it together, I got to believe there's a hula hoop you could throw around that as to what's really going on.
A lack of dads.
There it is.
It all comes down to missing dads.
Yeah. And so they don't have an idea what a man.
So this is just me.
Go for it.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
this
you do.
is just what I see. This is
Let
just
it
me.
rip.
We have two problems
Okay.
in this country with the male issue.
Yeah.
Number one is we have a history of war.
Yes.
And so those fathers, young fathers, who were not right out killed in battle,
Yeah.
come back, and especially if you go back World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War,
Yeah.
they come back and they bottle everything up,
Yeah.
okay? And they're just, not all of them, okay, some adjusted back fine, but I know a host of them that didn't. And, you know, a lot of times they are afraid to open up to the family because they're afraid of the demons they're going to escape because they've got them locked behind, because they were never dealt with from what they saw and what they did and what was done to them at war. So they weren't good dads. Not on them. I'm not blaming them.
Yep.
Okay? So World War II, you know, you've got these dads that come back and they've got boys. And all of a sudden dad appears. You know, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And dad's got his own scars.
Yeah.
You know, and so what can dad do? He can't be the emotional structure that his family needs, but he can go to work and work 60 hours a week and make sure they've got a house.
Right.
And they can go to Disneyland every year, you know, and they've got the station wagon, Woody wagon. He can pay for that stuff.
Yep.
He's gone, but it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Junior grows up and gets sent off to Korea. So that generation cycle just goes on. And he comes back. So he's the son of a wounded dad who comes back a wounded dad who's got a son of his own who grows up and goes to Vietnam. And so we have a cycle of broken dads who raised broken dads. And then we have, oh heck, I don't care what they're gonna do to me. Then we got feminism.
Yeah.
Okay. And I get this all the time on my channel. Feminism is this. No, it's not. Even feminists don't agree what feminism is. Mm-hmm. But what it has resulted in is a bunch of boys being raised by their mama.
Right.
Now, that's not letting the rotten dads off the hook, because there's a lot of rotten dads. All right, but the situation is what the situation is.
Right.
We have feminism, and we have a historical, nonstop culture of war in this country that has destroyed dads.
Right.
And the ones that it didn't kill outright, it just messed them up inside. So they were not as balanced and as calm and as you know, my grandfather, my great grandfather was.
So can I extrapolate from that we've got a bunch of weak men?
We have a bunch of weak men.
I mean, we call it mental health.
So what makes a man? Easy answer is a man makes another man.
Well, that's right.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
A whole man, a healthy man.
A whole healthy man is what it takes to make another man. I mean, we're not born with this. We don't come out of the womb knowing how to be a good man. It's taught to us.
Yes.
We're raised in it. And if a man is not raised and taught by a man, then he's never going to be a whole man. Which then that comes into what, you know, we have today. And we've got two sides of today. We've got guys like myself, and Ryan Mickler's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He's coming out to Kentucky next month to spend about 3 days with me.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, but you got guys like that whose focus is doing what we can
Yep.
to help.
Yep.
But every coin's got two sides.
Yep.
And the other side of that coin is this abomination we call the manosphere, who are just taking advantage of it, you know, of these lost young men and making money and putting a bunch of toxic garbage out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Ooh, now you're on it. So, and I think that's absolutely right. Describe that toxic garbage so people can identify it, because I think people need to have their eyes open to this.
the toxic garbage mostly, and I'm going to have to expand
Go
on
for
this
it.
after I say it, okay? Most of the toxic garbage that comes out it's all women's fault.
Right.
So it's teaching these boys to despise women,
Right.
okay? Now, women share the blame, but the key word there is share. Feminism today was caused by men who dropped the ball.
That's right.
All the way back when feminism started, women had enough. They had enough of men who weren't being men. And they're like, I think we can do a better job.
Yeah.
And so even the start of feminism, in a large part, in my mind, was caused by chump men.
Yeah.
And so women stepped in to fill a role that the men were not filling. In a lot of cases, I realize we're painting with a broad brush,
Sure.
and it's just a big cycle.
Yep.
And then what you get is you get that pendulum,
Yes.
okay? You get men who back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I'm talking back in 1800s, 1700s, were tyrants,
Yeah.
okay? They were just tyrants. Women had enough, and so they stepped in and the pendulum went up here. All right, so you've got this garbage that we have today. And so now you've got your manosphere guys who are trying to swing that pendulum back, but now they're swinging it plumb back up here.
Right.
And what we need is this balance in the middle where we respect and honor women and stand up to them. All right? But we be men. We don't place everything in the blame in the feet of women,
Right.
but we don't abdicate our position either.
Right.
And so there's that balance, and everybody in their place and in their life, they have to find that balance for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't, everybody doesn't color the same coloring book.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
And there is a complete gross abuse today by women of what women started, the original feminist movement, okay? But then there is a gross abuse by men of men in response to the abuse of the women.
Yeah.
And so everybody's just abusing everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, if you get online and you look at the feminist and you look at the manosphere and you look at this, and everybody's just abusing everybody.
Yeah.
If a man can, number one, become secure in himself, not arrogant, calmly, quietly, gently secure,
Yes.
and reach out and start helping a young man here and helping a young man, I don't think we can put all this in balance again. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay, but I'm not out here. I'm just right here.
Right.
Here's my sphere, and I think I can help put this back in balance.
Yes.
And if I help put my little sphere back in balance, and you help put your little sphere back in balance, and on around, it grows.
Yeah.
Okay, it grows. But it's only going to be when men find the balance. You've got to find the grace to deal with women who've been led astray, women who've been done wrong by other men. And you have to combine that with a strength to stand up and say, look, I understand, but you're not treating me like that.
Yeah. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey, everybody struggles from time to time, and you might have considered going to therapy, but taking that first step, it can feel overwhelming. Maybe it's the time commitment. Maybe you have some preconceived ideas about therapy, or maybe it's the cost. But let's just get real for a moment. We'll spend money on shoes or the latest phone or even designer dog bowls. I know I spent a lot of money on clothes because I gotta have the latest threads. But when it comes to our mental well-being, we're more likely to say that we can't afford it. So listen, your mental and emotional health are important, more important than stuff. And BetterHelp makes therapy more affordable and convenient. Since it's online, you can talk with your therapist when it works for your schedule. No long commutes, no waiting rooms, and no waiting list. Just fill out a short online survey to get matched with a licensed therapist. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time for no extra cost. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/Ken to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Ken. Okay, let's go right over here for a question.
Yeah, Dewayne. So a question for you. I had a heart attack back in May, so not even quite a year ago. And something that I've been kind of trying to figure out, and I know it'll sound weird, but how to not forget, how to let life take back over. And I heard you talk about some of the things you made changes on. But sometimes in life, it just things keep going forward, and I've had to remind myself of having that heart attack to make those changes in my life. What did you do to kind of help you remind yourself, like, hey, listen, I can't go back to the way I was before. Mine was a pretty massive heart attack, so I went straight to the emergency room, straight into surgery.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. So, like, if you make a change, so you have something like that happen. So you make a change in your life, okay? So picture you're right here.
Okay.
All right, you're standing here, and this is not a good place to be. And so you take a step forward. So now concentrate on that. Live in where you're at now, okay?
Okay.
And if you decide and you discern that I like where I am now, all right, I think I'll take another step forward. And so if you focus on moving forward, you don't have to keep looking back to encourage you to move forward.
Got it.
Okay, I don't think about that time unless, in a situation like that, people ask me about it and we start talking about it. On a daily basis, I don't have to go back to that. Now, if I slip a little bit, and I'm wound a little tight today, I have a very good tool that helps me, and it's called my wife.
Right.
She's like, I lived through 30 years of that, and I'm not living through it anymore. And today you're sounding like the old Dewayne.
Right.
All right, so let's not do that. I've made videos, and the topic was good, and the information that I gave was clear and good. And my wife has come to me, she says, honey, that was good, but you sounded like the old Dewayne in that. and you might want to just re-record that. And I'll go have a cigar, sit down, think about it, like, yeah, I got a little passionate, a little scratchy on that, and I'll go back and re-record it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to another question right here.
So my question is about perseverance. And it's really, I'm curious what your experience and what your journey was like becoming the man you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up without a dad. And so I'm just like a first generation going after it, trying to find that, and I think I put a lot of weight on myself to get it right. I'm pretty perfectionistic. So, and it gets heavy, to try to be everything to myself, like forgive myself and forgive my past, forgive my dad, and because I got to let go of all that to move forward. But I'm curious what your story is when it comes to the journey of going from, because I've made the decision, I've made the leap, and I'm on the trail, and I'm up the mountain a good ways, a little bit in my own journey of who I want to be, but it almost feels like I dipped over a ridge and I'm in this like really long valley. And I don't know, what valleys have you gone, what did that feel like going through that? Because you said people disappear intentionally by design, and but in what ways did you build that perseverance or stories around that perseverance to keep you going in the valleys a little bit?
The mistake that you'll make, and the mistake that a lot of people that are on your journey make, is there's a peak out there, and that's where you want to get. And so you lock your eyes on that peak. All right? Don't do that. Okay? You don't look at the man you want to be in 20 years. You only have to fix one thing today. Just today. That's it. Do I have a problem with my dad today? No, I'm doing other stuff. I'm not worried about it. Am I a man that I can like and respect today? And when you go to bed at night, look back on the day and say, how did I do today? And then go to bed and go to sleep. Wake up in the morning and say, all I got to do is be the best man I can be today. So I was in the jungles of Papua New Guinea for 2 years in the highlands. And a guy called me and he said, called me on the radio and said, I'm having a meeting on that other mountain over there, and won't you come spend the week with me? I said, all right, I'll do it. So I got my guides around and got my backpack, and we headed out. And it about killed me. I don't know how many hours we were hiking, but it got to the point where it was like a steep, grassy hill, long way up. And I'm like, I believe when I get to the top of this hill, I can see my destination. I got to the top of the hill, and I saw another hill. You following me? And so I went over and we went to the base of that hill, and I said, I think I can go up this hill. And when I get to the top of this hill, I can see my destination. And so we climbed that hill. I'm exhausted. And we get to the top of that hill, and I saw another hill. And after a while, I said, you know what? There ain't no mountaintop, there ain't no village, and there ain't no destination. I'm going to put my foot right there. You know, I'm going to quit looking up there. I'm just going to move a step forward.
That's so good.
I'm just going to take another step forward. I ain't going to worry about finding that peak and finding that next hill. I'm just going to take another step forward. Are you to the place that you want to be? No. But I'm further along than when I started, and I'm not heartbroken and depressed and disappointed because I'm not at the peak that I'm looking at up there. My goal is, I'm serious, I got this exhausted, man. It's like, from me to him, it's like there's a bush right there. I'm gonna go to that bush, you know? And you go to I made it to the bush, you know? And we just take another step and take another step. And eventually, I wound up at the top of the mountain. I wound up in the village. I wound up at my destination. And I wasn't near as frustrated and disappointed and depressed about it. All you have to do is today be the best man that you can be today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. You don't worry about tomorrow until tomorrow. And you'll find if you take one step tomorrow further than you were today, you'll look around one day and it's like, wow, I made it. You know, it's like a pygmy eating an elephant, man. It's just one bite at a time. If you keep stepping back and looking at the elephant, you're like, I'm never going to get this thing. But I'm just going to take another bite.
All right, one more over here.
Yeah. You talked about how you were in the pulpit, like as a pastor, and needed to step away in order to kind of start the healing process for yourself. And yet, of course, you're quoting Bible wisdom and full of, you know, stuff like that. How important, when we're talking about healing the next generation and helping men become men, how important is faith in not only your own journey to become that, but in helping to raise them up?
I believe it's paramount. Now, I want to take a step back and address something on the way here. I'm not, by nature, I'm not a pastor, and I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
Okay? That's one of the reasons why it didn't work. Okay? I'm just not.
You don't like sheep.
I don't. Okay. So,
how can you be a shepherd? I mean, I love that.
Yeah. So you know, in your I'm going to answer your question,
yeah, sure.
but I want to get the fullness of it.
Yeah.
Okay. In one of the interviews you did, you know, it talked about leaders. There's leaders.
That's right.
And there's followers. But there's also guys like me.
That's right.
I'm not a leader. Okay. I'm going over there. Now, if you want to fall in behind, and I'll show you. I'm like, hey, there's a hole there, you know. But I don't encourage people to follow me. But I'm not a follower either. because you're probably going to leave me in a ditch.
Yeah.
I just don't trust. Okay. So pastoring didn't work for me because I'm not a leader and I'm not a follower. All right. But faith. Now I get a lot of feedback on the faith side of this. I don't care. Not anymore. It ain't like I'm making money off of this. In Genesis chapter 2, God said, let us, plural, make man in our image. Now that doesn't, to me, when I read and studied this so much, that doesn't mean that God had two hands. And God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And this is people are going to start weeping and wailing and gnashing their teeth. But God is a Trinity. There is God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. So when God made us in his image, he made us a Trinity. Okay? We're a body, we're a soul, and we're a spirit. So if a man is not complete, if he doesn't have that faith, he's only 2/3 of a man.
Yeah. So good.
Okay? And so we have a lot of men these days, and you have men who are all about going to the gym and working out, building muscles, their haircut, the clothes they wear. That's a third. That's 1/3 of a man. All right? But they will not sit down and read poetry. They won't go to a museum and look at artwork. Okay? They won't get in touch with the soul. And they for sure will not read the Bible and go to church. All right? But you've got Christians that are the same way. Okay? They will do all of the faith stuff. But to go to a gym, to go on a diet, that's why you've got 300-pound preachers with bug eyes spreading the buttons on their shirt standing in the pulpit. They're only 1/3 of a man. Okay? They're not taking care of the physical. And they for sure will not listen to Mozart, or read Longfellow or Kipling, And so, and you go and you sit and you listen to them, you're like, man, this is like a hollow man. It's not that he doesn't know the Bible, but this is not somebody I want to hang around with. Why? Because they're only 1/3 of a man. They are ignoring 2/3 of the Trinity that is them. And so if you ignore faith, you're never going to be a complete man. You have to focus equally on all three parts of the Trinity that you are. Listen, Socrates was a renowned wrestler. Did you know that?
I didn't.
He was a very famous, very renowned wrestler. He wasn't just a brain. Reading poetry won't make you weak. Okay? If it did, I'd be a complete milksop. I love poetry. All right? One of the things I remember, I was in Sydney, Australia. I went in one of the main museums there, and I went through, and there was a painting there that it just stopped me in my tracks. And I just stood there for I don't know how long and just soaked it in. You have to work on all three parts of your Trinity. And so faith is at least 1/3 of becoming the man that God intended you to be. Let me put it like that.
I love it. Okay, so we're talking about the man you're supposed to be, and we're sitting here in the shadows of our two big buildings. We have over 1,000 employees here, and I've been married 27 years, and I see more and more, it feels like to me, a lot of single ladies in that building, and I hear them talking sometimes. The guys just aren't committing. Feels like people are getting older and older when they get married. I mean, I got married at 23, and people think I'm a freak. I got married early, but my parents got married at 20 and 19. Feels like dating apps, technology. It feels like guys either don't know how to commit, Dewayne, or they don't want to commit, but there's something going on, and I think it's a threat to our society. Your thoughts on that, and what would you say to young men? Are they scared to court women like they used to? Like the idea of courting a woman, that's like a lot of young guys who go, what are you talking about, Ken? What do you see there when it relates to young men and relationships, committing? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are God created man for one purpose, and that's to serve.
Yeah.
That's to serve. Men today are looking to be served. They're looking for a mother. Okay? They're looking for a girlfriend who's going to look up at them and bat her eyes.
Yes.
Who's going to look a certain way so they get, as they walk around, the guys are like, man, you got a good one.
Right.
They're courting, not courting, but their dating practice is all about what can I get.
Right.
And girls aren't looking for that.
Right.
And so court a young lady, it's all about getting out of your car, walking up to the door, speaking to her father with respect, and then treating her like a lady and taking her out and listening to her when she talks.
Yes.
Okay? Men have lost their purpose of service. We are here to serve. We are here to provide. We are here to protect. We are here to teach. We are here to lead. That's what we're here for. We're not here for ourselves. Now, our pursuit of becoming better men is for the purpose of becoming better servers. It's not so we can look at ourselves in 10 years and say, I'm better than I was 10 years ago. That's not the point. The point of getting better is not just so that we can be better. The point of being better is so that we can be better servants, so we can be better protectors, better providers, better teachers, bringing the young men along.
Yeah.
If I'm an idiot because I refuse to read a book, because I refuse to think, I can't help a young man become a smarter young man. So I become smarter, not just so that I'm smarter, but I become smarter so I can help that young man become smarter so his life becomes easier. Okay? If I'm a weakling, I can't protect my wife. So I don't become stronger. I don't study hand-to-hand combat, which, I'm trained and taken all that. I don't become a better shot just so I can say I'm a better shot. I become better physically so that I can better protect my wife or whoever's around me. The journey doesn't stop. The journey to getting better doesn't stop because we're better. All right? Getting better has to have a purpose. There has to be a purpose.
Yeah.
And so young ladies today, they look at, and even not young, I'm not talking 17, 18-year-old, I'm talking 26, I'm talking 36, they're just boys. They're in men's bodies, but they're just boys, and everything they do is about themselves. And if you go, I don't care, if you go all the way back to the foundation basic, God made man and God made woman to be a help, meet for man, all right, to help him do his job. But he's got to do his job. She has to have somebody to help. If he ain't doing nothing, what is her purpose? What's she going to help him with? She going to help him play Xbox?
Yeah, that's right, though.
I mean, what is it? How many of these dang grown men today spend 2 or 3 hours a night when they get off work sitting on their flipping couch on the computer playing video games? What are they accomplishing? And that wife, what is she going to help him do?
Yeah.
She can't help him do anything because he's not doing anything. I need to stop now.
No.
Okay?
I'm telling you. That's good. We're talking about the dating process, and they're just not committing, and they're just, and you're nailing it.
They're not committing, because if I commit to you, I may run into someone who can give me more. And so it's about me and what I can get.
That's exactly right. That is on the mark. So true. I want to ask you, I want to go back to the horse. You've got experience with horses, and I recently, Dewayne, I love history, and I've read the Bible through so many times in my life because I grew up in church, but I never really dove into the word meek. Meekness, obviously. I did some research on it, and the idea of meeking a horse, you know it well. But what the ancient Greeks did, they tried to find a war horse that was super strong, a fierce spirit, but they needed to get that horse to a point where it'd be gentle enough for a rider to ride on it, but still have that fierceness of battle. And the process of meeking a horse and getting that horse to talk to us about that. How is that? I mean, that just blew my mind when I started thinking about meekness is not weakness.
Meekness is I can kick your butt, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's such a better way of saying it.
I mean, that's what it is.
It is. It's right.
Okay, meekness is not weakness.
That's right.
Meekness is having a sword, knowing how to use that sword, being willing to use that sword.
Yes.
But not using the sword.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as
It's
that.
hard for men to grasp that, isn't it?
It is. And so the thing is, you can't be meek if you're not strong.
That's the truth.
It beggars the definition.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Because what are they doing to the horse? Give me more. You got that understanding. What is happening in that horse to where it still has that strength, but it's going to allow that rider on the back?
So meeking a horse is changing the horse's mind. It's not a physical thing.
Right.
Okay. I mean, a horse, I have 7 horses at home. Most of them are quarter horses. You know, so you got an 800 to 1,000 pound animal, 1,200 pound animal. That's a prey animal, first off. Its instinct is everything is going to eat me. You know, so if I don't know what's going on, I'm going to run away. They're faster than I am, they're stronger than I am, they're bigger than I am. So we can't get into a physical altercation or I'm going to lose. And so I have to show the horse, it's like, I don't want you to lose your strength. I'm not going to take away your instinct because that's your life. I'm not going to take away who you are. I'm just going to teach you to control it. I'm going to teach you that there are times in your life that your instinct is not the best course for you to take. For you to control your natural instinct, for you to control what you're going to do right now, and to use your mind and say either, okay, I'm going to decide not to do that, or to say, I'm going to take all this and I'm going to put it in your hands and I'm going to trust you to keep me out of trouble and to tell me what I need to do. But I don't want him to lose his speed. I don't want him to lose his agility, his athleticism. I don't want him to lose his strength. I don't want him to lose that instinct. Because it's who he is.
Yes.
But it just has to be controlled.
Yeah. That is so good. Where does God enter into that equation for us as we listen to that beautiful, that's a wonderful metaphor right out of nature, and what you do with those horses?
So a base man, all right, a guy who's proficient in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who lifts weights, who's strong, who's fit, who's athletic, but he's not humble and he's not in control. His natural instinct is going to be, if somebody crosses him, to just lose his temper and start swinging. That's where all these bar fights come from. That's where these abused women come from. Okay? And so God takes a man and God changes that man and says, look, I still want you to be a man. All right? I still want you to be fit and strong and healthy. But that's not the way you go about it. That's not your enemy. Okay? As a Christian, the Bible calls us soldiers. All right? But we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
That's right.
All right? So we maintain their courage. We maintain our strength. We maintain our steadfastness. We maintain our righteous indignation and our wrath against evildoers. We maintain that, but we just direct it properly. That's where God comes into that.
Oh, it's good. Wow, so good. I got to bring up something during one of our camera exchanges. This young man to my right brought up, you said maybe your most popular video, but he was talking about the fact that he came upon the video when he was 26, and you addressed that age in one of your videos, and you basically said, hey, just be 26. And I could see that it meant something to him at the time as he was taking himself back to that.
Right.
And I want to go back there because I think that message needs to be heard. You know, if I think back to when I was in my 20s, man, you talk about reckless ambition, trying to get it all done, you know, seize the day, suck the air out of life from Dead Poet Society, and it's just out of control, and it's just got to get it. And I think that's a great message to say, you know what? You don't have to get it all done at 26.
Most horses today, most colts, are started at 2 years old.
Okay.
Okay? Some start as early as 18 months. A horse does not reach maturity until they're 6.
Okay.
At least your average quarter horse, your average riding horse.
Okay.
A 2-year-old colt may be big. You look at them, they're like, man, that's a big, good-looking horse right there. All right? But his knees are like You know how an infant is born and they have soft spot on top of their head?
Yeah.
Because the skull has it. Their knees are not growing together, the bones in their knees.
Interesting.
Okay. And so you can take them and put them on a racetrack. All right. The Kentucky Derby is strictly 2-year-olds. You can't run unless you're 2 years old. And you can work them too hard, as big and strong as they look, and wreck their knees. And by the time they're 10, they're done, or 8. You know, you break them down early. I have horses. I have a horse right now. I bought her she was 8 months old. Well, she'll be 5 this year, and she's still not big enough for me to ride. And I'm like, that's her. Let her grow. And it's mentally too. We get horses in that are sharp, and they're there, and they're on it, and you start them nice and easy at 2 years old. You get another horse, and they're like, you know,
Right.
And it's like you got to wait till they're 4 or 5. They're just not ready,
Right.
you know. But you don't push them. If you push them and you get a modicum of success, you pay for that in the long run.
You know what this feels like? This feels like youth sports and parents pushing their kids for their own glory or pushing them too soon.
I believe that you only have so much. Every person of you take whatever it is, okay, a step. You've only got so many steps in your life. Okay, let's say 1,000,000 steps. I'm just pulling it out of my hair. Okay,
sure.
Now you've only got 1,000,000.
Yeah.
Now, if you burn up all that 1,000,000 steps in the first 15 years of your life, what are you going to do when you're 70? How broke down are you going to be? Because you've only got so many. Okay, and it goes with the heart and it goes with the mind. You only have so much. And if you take a young horse and you start training them, and you train them too much, you burn their brain out. And I don't mean physically, but it's like taking a 7-year-old boy and setting him down in front of a math book and making him sit there for 4 hours a day. What you're going to wind up with a boy that hates math. Now, he might have been naturally good at math. He might have had a talent for math. He would have loved math and become a great mathematician. But you pushed too much math on him when he was 7, and he said, I hate this. Math I hate it. Horses are the same way. You push them too hard at 2 years old, and they're like, I hate being ridden. I hate being saddled. I hate working. They just get an attitude, and they hate it. You take a young man that's 26 years old, and you're like, you've got to invest in this, you've got to read all these books, and you've got to do this, you have to become that. If you don't have a 6-pack, I'm going to fire you. You know, I hate that nonsense. You'll burn them up inside. They'll lose their joy of life, okay? That they spend so much time in their formative years and in their youth being just mentally and emotionally driven and burnt out. I tell you what, there's a short story by Jack London called The Apostate.
Yep.
Read that story. Look it up. It's the perfect example of this whole situation. Okay? Let them grow. A 5-year-old boy's got no business being in school.
Oh, I agree.
He's got no business. He needs to be out climbing a tree. Now, maybe he'll break his arm, but he'll be happy because he'll have a cast and he'll have the scars of war.
That's right.
He needs to be muddy. He needs to be dirty. He needs to be out feeding the horses. All right? He needs to be growing and developing. He doesn't need to be sitting down in a book and trying to figure out if a train leaves Chicago at 8 a.m. traveling 35 miles. He don't need that nonsense.
He doesn't.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you're going to ruin him.
That's right.
Well, the same thing applies to a 20-year-old, but just in different areas.
Yes.
They don't need it. Okay?
Yeah,
They don't
that's
need
right.
it. What do they need? They need to learn how to build relationships. They need to be around a campfire with a bunch of buddies and figuring out the pain of acting stupid.
Yep.
They need to figure it out.
That's right.
All right, they need to be down to the creek bank down there, getting a bloody nose and a good fist fight because somebody has not yet learned how to shut their mouth. Okay, they need to learn life.
Yes.
You don't learn life sitting in a bunch of stinking seminars. No offense.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, none taken.
No offense.
No ta-
There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
Now, all young men are not the same. Some young men, they hit 18, 19, they're there.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you take a 18-year-old we put him in school when he was 4.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He went all the way through grade school.
Yeah.
Then he went through middle school. Then he went through high school.
Yeah.
Then he went to college. Then he went to pre-med. And then he went to med school.
Right.
What did he learn?
Well, I tell you what we teach them. We teach them not to ask questions. We teach them how to answer questions. We beat the curiosity out of them. That's what they're learning.
And so
what we tell them to learn.
And so they just parrot. They don't think for themselves.
There it is.
And they don't, their empathy is stunted. You come off a horse and hit the ground, I'm gonna look down, I'm gonna say, did that hurt? Okay? Because I've been there.
Yes.
Okay?
Right.
I've been there so many times.
Right.
Okay? I can empathize.
Yeah.
And I can say, get up, brush yourself off, and get back on.
Right.
Oh, you broke a couple of ribs?
Right.
Well, here's some aspirin. I've been there, done that.
Right. But you're also going to probably tell me what I did.
Oh, absolutely.
And
will.
boy, am I going to learn it a lot better.
Okay.
Because of that.
But if you spent all of your life sitting in one classroom after another, sitting in front of a computer,
That's right.
learning how to make more money, you don't learn how to preserve relationships.
Yeah.
You don't learn how to empathize with people, not to the level that you should.
Yeah.
We got to let kids be kids. And I don't, this is me, a 26-year-old is still a kid.
Yeah.
And we got to let them be a kid.
Yeah.
We got to let them mess up.
Yeah.
You know, we got to let them have fun. Look, I'll be 58 next month.
I love that just surprised you.
There are things I will never do again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I resonate with that.
Okay? Why do I want to take that away from a 25-year-old?
Yes.
Why do I want him to get where I'm at? And it's like, well, you got a lot of money, but you never did this. You never experienced this.
Yeah.
You never found this. You never learned this.
Yes.
I wouldn't trade places with you for nothing.
Yeah.
We need to let, and it's not just guys, girls. We need to let them, now not be stupid, not be immoral. I'm not talking spring break garbage.
Sure.
Okay. But hey, let the kid be the kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's a reason why we call them young men,
That's right.
and there's a reason why we say old men.
That's right.
That's a key adjective.
One of the saddest things in the world is an old man that's 24 years old.
Ooh.
It's sad.
Oh. Break that down. Describe that old man who's 24.
He's been weighted with responsibilities and fears
Yeah.
and work and drudgery, and all the joy of life was taken away from him. All of the freedom of life was taken away from him. And I'm 58. I'm not old, but I'm not young. And I carry burdens easily because I've grown into them.
Yes.
I carry my age
Yeah.
easily because I've grown into it.
Yeah.
But a 24-year-old should not be carrying an old man's burden.
Yes. That's so good. I didn't plan to ask you this, but I feel led to ask you this. You shared your faith openly. I love that. As a former pastor who didn't like it, when you get to heaven, is there a person from the Bible that you say, I'm looking forward to a cigar under a tree with this person? Who is that and why?
His name's Benaiah.
Okay.
He was one of David's mighty men.
Yes.
That guy fascinates me. And I want to talk to him.
What are you going to ask him?
I don't even know. It's more like, tell me some stories. Just tell me some stories.
Why are you drawn to him?
In my opinion, he was probably the strongest man in the Bible. I mean, not Samson strong, but he was one of the mightiest warriors, but he was one of the most humble servants to David. I mean, to me, and there's not a whole lot in there, but for me, from what I see, there's the balance of taking his incredible strength, warriorhood, and using it for service to a man of God.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the guy I want to meet.
Oh, love that. So good. Well, folks, I love the format of this show because I believe at my core that one question and a conversation can change your life. And I always want to give a takeaway, something that I learned today. And one thing, I learned a lot. One thing I'm going to take away in the days ahead, I really want to dive in at this stage of my life to that circle of friends. How tight is the circle? Time is limited, and the tightness of that circle. And if I'm in a situation where people that I may be hanging on to aren't good for me, I got to have the courage to make the right decision based on how I want to live the time that I have. And I have no idea what that is. I think that's our challenge. It's my challenge, is to do that inventory and to live that way. Hey, if you're enjoying the program, would you give us a like and a share and a subscribe or a follow, whether it's podcast or YouTube? We'd be grateful for that. And then as I wrap, my friends here, thanks for joining us around the fire pit for a special edition. Would you join me in thanking Dewayne for sharing his time and wisdom with us? That was so good, brother. So good.